Whoever came up with the saying time heals all wounds obviously never had their past appear at their front door, grinning as if it belonged there. 3 years have passed since I left Los Angeles. It's been 3 years since I loaded up my Jeep with everything I owned and drove through a snowstorm to Aspen, Colorado, where I finally found true silence. I left behind Ethan Carter, traded stages for solitude, and swapped fame for quiet. What was the ultimate decision I made? This is my top choice. Nobody inquires about my history up here in the mountains. I am just known to them as Claire, the proprietor of the small, peaceful bookstore cafe on Main Street. I take my golden dog, Penny, on long walks in the forest, organize poetry nights, and bake scones. I have constructed a simple life for myself. Mine is small and basic. However, I felt the chill grip me once more as I stood in my kitchen that night, clutching my mother's invitation with the flower design in my trembling hands. Susan Bennett's 60th birthday celebration is open to you, hosted by Claire and Emma, her devoted kids. The names made me blink. What's my name? I had never hosted anything before. Emma, my younger sister, probably added it without asking, which wasn't out of the ordinary. However, the final sentence was what made my breath catch in my throat. Ethan Carter is a special guest. As if it had burnt, I dropped the card. No, this must have been an error. It was a truly terrible joke. One day, Ethan yelled in my face so loudly that I was unable to hear him for a day. The man I ran away from in the middle of the night with a bag and a bleeding lip. The man who broke a wine glass next to my head and then blamed it on me for pushing his buttons. He was a special guest now? I immediately called Emma. As if she had been waiting, she answered the first ring with a cheery voice. Claire! Have you received the invitation? Why in the world is Ethan's name on it? A pause occurred, an excessively extended silence. Slowly, she said, I was going to tell you in person. He's going to be my date. I was having trouble breathing. Are you dating him? Her voice took on the obnoxious sing-song optimism. I recalled from high school when she remarked, He's changed. He is recuperating. He works as a shelter volunteer. He has written a book. And he extended his hand. I regret everything, he said. I pardoned him. You ought to as well. Penny came to place her head on my knee as I dropped to the ground. I clenched the phone with painfully tight fingers. You pardoned the guy who admitted me to the hospital? You exaggerated, he said, that both parties were involved. And Mom concurs. I ended the call. My heart pounded in my chest with agony. This was more than just betrayal. They were rewriting it. They were repackaging and dismissing my truth, my pain like a bothersome rumor. I carefully got to my feet, picked up the invitation off the floor, and threw it into the fireplace. The paper twisted, turned dark, and disappeared. However, it didn't stop there. I received a message from Mom herself 2 days later. All right, let's attempt to make amends for one evening. It's only a party. Avoid focusing on the past. The past? I came here for the past. I still double-locked my doors and woke up sweating some nights because of the past. I couldn't just disregard the past like a party attendee. I surveyed my comfortable cabin. The cozy radiance of the string lights filled the room. The candle by the window was burning with a cinnamon scent. By the fire, Penny was dozing. My house. I'm at peace, and I was fully aware of my obligations. I typed the message to my mother 3 times. I will not be going. Don't get in touch with me regarding Ethan again, please. Brief. Managed. Final. But as soon as I sent it, Emma buzzed on my phone once more. You're going overboard. Mom's big night is tonight. For once, are you unable to set aside your drama? My drama. The same drama that left me crying behind locked doors and resulted in a cast on my wrist. I walked directly to the woods behind my cabin after turning off my phone. It was the only location where I could think straight. Trees stretched tall and undisturbed, snow crunched under my feet, and Penny trotted ahead, tail wagging as if nothing had changed. But everything was falling apart inside of me. They had embraced his return. I'm not sorry, no cautions. For the man who almost ruined me, it's just an open door. And now, somehow, I was the one who was being irrational by wishing to avoid? I took a little picture out of my coat pocket and sat on a fallen log. On a summer camping vacation, Emma and I, ages 7 and 10, were laughing and covered in chocolate. That was before Ethan. before things became tough in life. I used to believe that Emma would always be my safe haven. Out loud, I muttered, "Where did you go?" Sensing a change in my vibe, Penny came back to me. As usual, while I was plummeting, she pushed her head beneath my hand. I massaged her ears and gave her a feeble smile. But as the sun went down and the shadows grew longer across the snow, I started to have the weird impression that someone was watching me. I whirled around. Nobody. But the feeling persisted. My pulse was racing as I stood up and made my way back to the cabin, looking over my shoulder every few paces. I attempted to ignore it, assuming it was just nerves. Too many unresolved scars and too many old memories. However, an envelope was taped to my front door when I got there. No mail, no name. A single word in sharp, blocky handwriting piece. My blood froze. My fingers were shaking as I tore it open. A handwritten letter was inside. "Claire, you despise me, I know. You probably always will. However, Emma pardoned me. Now she sees the me you never had a chance at. I'm not against you. I wasn't. Simply put, you were too proud to allow someone to love you the way I did. See you at the celebration. Don't make things more difficult than they have to be." My throat constricted. I clenched my hands. He was not meant to be aware of my residence. I looked around and saw only my footsteps in the snow. No automobiles, no indications. He had visited this place. It's close enough to my door, near enough to know my sleeping quarters. In an attempt to quiet my pounding heart, I backed inside carefully, secured the latch, closed the blinds, and leaned against the door. This was no longer about a party. This served as a warning. And I had a feeling that I wouldn't be the one penning this story's conclusion if I didn't take action right away. I had trouble sleeping that night. Penny nestled close to my feet as I sat on the couch, her ears perking up and down at every sound of the floors or wind hitting the cabin walls. On the coffee table, the envelope containing Ethan's letter was undamaged. I hadn't discarded it. There was a part of me that wished it were not real. However, I was no longer able to deceive myself. He was present. And Emma, not the man who broke my life, had somehow reintroduced him to me like a long-lost puppy. Just to be certain, I opened my laptop and signed into the security camera software. I had installed a single camera after the divorce, and it was aimed at the front porch of the cabin. I skipped ahead during the nighttime video. Then I caught sight of him. 2:14 a.m. A dark-coated figure appeared, head down, hood up. He moved slowly. He didn't knock. He didn't think twice. He simply taped the envelope to my door, grinned, and looked straight up at the camera. I zoomed in and paused the video. I could see the pride on his face, even through the grain. He was aware of my presence. He desired that I do so. I forcefully closed the laptop. How could this have happened? After everything, how could my sister Emma have supported him? Because he remembered to grin before threatening others. Did she think he had changed? I received my response the following morning. Emma arrived at my coffee shop. Even before the doors opened, I was getting ready. Anticipating the delivery man, I turned as I heard the bell above the door sound. It was her instead. She wore bright pink lipstick, the kind she knew I detested, and a wool coat. As if we were two sisters catching up on gossip, she grinned. I said nothing whatsoever, simply gazed. The silence was broken by her. He merely wanted to greet Claire. "You didn't need to lose your mind like that." I laughed a little dryly. "Hello? Is it your intention to arrive at my cabin in the middle of the night and leave a vague threat on my door?" She gave an eye roll. "You predict the worst all the time. I was completely stopped by that." "Pretend?" I looked her in the eye as I gently made my way around the counter, both hands resting on the edge. "When I arrived at your house 3 years ago, trembling and bleeding, Emma, I didn't assume anything. When the physicians took images of my bruises, I didn't make any assumptions. When you stood behind me in court and said, 'I believe you,' I didn't assume." She made an uncomfortable change. "Claire, people change. Do they?" I yelled. "Or do they simply locate new targets for manipulation?" Her voice cracked a little. "You made everything up," he said, "because you were the first to attack him, that you got him arrested by lying." Stunned, I gazed at her. I briefly glimpsed my childhood sister, the one who used to smuggle crackers under the blankets and braid my hair. However, that girl had long since left. Emma, he's making you turn against your own blood. She turned her head away. Perhaps you're simply resentful. That was the end of it. My last glimmer of hope for her broke. I approached the door, flung it open, and spoke in a composed tone that I didn't feel. Leave. She opened her mouth as though to argue, but she must have been alerted by something in my eyes. Without saying another word, she turned and left. One horrifying reality became ingrained in my bones as I saw her vanish into the cold street. Ethan wasn't the only one I had to deal with. I was alone now, and those who had previously shielded me were now the ones I needed to shield myself from. Emma leaving didn't make me cry. I didn't hurl anything or scream. Rather, the first prepared myself a cup of tea with trembling hands, went upstairs to my flat above the cafe, and shut the place early. Chamomile. I drank the same kind in the ICU when I couldn't stop having nightmares. I gazed at the snow falling outside while perched in the shabby armchair at the window. It ought to have been quiet. But my thoughts continued to race. What made her believe him, after all? It didn't matter, I told myself. She was now gone, like the others. That I was self-sufficient. But in the back of my mind, I kept asking myself, why now? After all this time, why had Ethan returned so abruptly? How had he reached Emma, too? I had trouble sleeping that night. I decided to do something I hadn't done in a long time. I took out the old storage bucket that contained all of the divorce-related documentation that I kept in the closet at the back of the hallway. Pictures, medical records, police reports, notes from therapy. I told myself I needed to move on, so I put things away. But I wanted answers now. One file caught my eye while I was going through the papers. I couldn't recall ever seeing it before. A small, unmarked manila envelope nestled between two transcripts of court proceedings. I slowly opened it. There was a typed report within. Report from a private investigator. Client, Claire Bennett's subject. Ethan Parker, I gasped. I hadn't even remembered that I had employed someone. It was shortly after Ethan had hit me for the first time, and I was still holding out hope that I could show what was going on before things became worse. I had never followed up, though. My stomach turned when I glanced over the report. Ethan had a history, a lengthy one. 2 restraining orders, sealed cases, never prosecuted from past boyfriends. A DUI. A man was hospitalized during a bar fight. Then I heard something that chilled me to the bone 2 years prior to our meeting. A mental health assessment. Intermittent explosive disorder is the diagnosis. Long-term therapy is the suggested course of treatment. The patient declined. The court has not heard any of this. The final divorce paperwork had not included any of this. Stunned, I reclined. I thought I was Ethan's first error. However, I wasn't. The first person to remain long enough to marry him was me. Emma was the next to go. I shut the folder and looked off into the night. This was no longer only about self-defense. I had to stop him, regardless of the expense. The air in Willow Lake was acrid with frost the following morning. With the report from the private investigator tucked under my coat, I hardly noticed it as I made my way to the cafe. I hadn't slept. Emma was the only person who kept coming back to my mind. Her excitement was wide-eyed. She had faith in Ethan. And me, sitting there in quiet, allowing her to enter the same misery from which I just managed to escape. I didn't open the cafe early for business. I took out my laptop instead, and I accessed the files. Police reports, medical documentation. The PI provided the report. Every page of the master document I created was more incriminating than the one before it. I paused for a moment. Was I working here? Was I really the right person to get engaged now? However, there was another part of me that knew I had to, the one that still recalled crying in a locked bathroom, praying that Ethan wouldn't smash the door. He continued with me. He would never. I had everything prepared by midday, including a USB drive with digital backups and a printed file that was beautifully bound. I sent Emma an SMS. After your shift, come see me in the cafe, please. It's crucial. Not a single emoji. No, I didn't have the energy to say love you. Her response was straightforward, all right. I waited. Paced. She appeared worn out but optimistic when she came, wrapped in her nursing scrubs. She stepped in and said, Claire, Are you prepared to speak at last? I am, I said. But first you must pay attention. She nodded but scowled. I gave the folder to her. Slowly, she opened it. Her face was neutral at first, then perplexed, pale after that. What is this? Her question was hardly audible above a whisper. I said, Ethan's history, the one he kept from you. Her eyes darted across the lines as she turned the pages. Her breath caught as her lips parted. Orders of restraint? Could they be accused of assault? A report on psychology? Her voice broke. This isn't possible, I whispered. It's all real. I previously attempted to warn you. However, I believe you have to witness it for yourself. Her eyes filled with tears. You made everything up, he told me. You harbored resentment. You lied. I took a swallow. I understand. Her voice trembled as she gazed up at me. I stood up for him. I reintegrated him into our lives. In your life. Oh my God. I put a hand on hers as I reached across the table. Listen to me, Emma. It's not about assigning blame. What you do right now is what matters. Slowly, with tears streaming down her face, she nodded. Are you and he still living together? She gave a head shake. No. I advised him to hold off on moving in until we tied the knot. Praise be to God. I let out a breath. Then there's still time. For what purpose? To alert parents. To alert parents and keep them safe, to ensure that nobody else in this town has any faith in him. After a brief period of silence, she muttered, He works at the hardware store. Before it sold, Dad used to run that one. He did, of course. Entering our lives as if nothing had occurred. I said, I'll take care of the legal side. You simply ensure your safety. Put his number on hold. If necessary, change your locks. Emma looked at me as if she had never seen me before. After all of this, do you still wish to protect me? I introduced myself as your sister. I didn't stop. On the day we made the decision to call it quits, thunderclouds stung the sky over Willow Lake. Emma was sitting next to me in my car, her hands shaking around a coffee thermos. Since we had left the cafe, neither of us had said much. The stillness was heavy, like armor, but it wasn't uneasy. One final time, I said, We don't have to do this. You may remain in the vehicle. No, Emma responded, her jaw clenched. I'll be the one to throw the match if he's going down. It was a straightforward but dangerous approach. Ethan would be present in the town hall for the annual Willow Lake Business Association meeting. For weeks, he had been networking and attempting to impress local company owners with phony handshakes and grins. Most were unaware of his past. Still, we entered the packed room through the hefty front doors. Shop owners, old friends, and even the recently elected mayor were present. The room was filled with light conversation until the association president tapped the microphone. We would like to thank our newest member, Ethan Reynolds from Willow Hardware, for his generous sponsorship of today's refreshments before we begin, she remarked with a smile. Ethan, who was wearing a tailored blazer and exuded confidence like armor, stood at the rear, grinning broadly. Emma gasped. I put my hand on hers. Are you prepared? She gave a nod. We made our way over to the podium. Discussion stalled. People turned. I stepped up and said, Pardon me. Before this meeting begins, I would like to say something. The room became silent. Ethan's grin dimmed. The glimmer of recognition was visible to me. The glimmer of terror. With a firm voice, I started. I know many of you have welcomed Ethan into our town. You've trusted him, made friends with him, and hired him. However, there is something that you are unaware of. I turned to face him. Ethan Reynolds wasn't always him. His name was Ethan Carter when I knew him. He was my spouse. Like flames, a ripple of rumors spread. Emma moved forward. He is also my former brother-in-law. He was my fiancé till last month. Shocks. We're not here for drama, I went on. We seek the truth. Copies of the police reports, restraining orders, witness statements, and psychological tests were in the folder I gave to the association president. You must ascertain his true identity before another person is harmed. Ethan took a step forward. It's slander. They are erratic. You attacked me, I uttered emphatically. You lied about it after that. To all of you, Emma moved ahead of him. You betrayed me, tricked me, wormed your way back in by taking advantage of my family's sorrow and remorse. A man stood close to the front. Ethan, is this accurate? I heard rumors from Chicago, said another, but didn't consider. Ethan's voice broke, now indignant. It's a personal assault. They harbor resentment. Envious. I shook my head, saying, No, we are at liberty. The mayor cleared his throat and moved ahead. Mr. Reynolds, please excuse yourself from this meeting until this is settled. Like a boy caught with a stolen wallet, Ethan stood motionless. Then he turned and stormed out without saying another word. He was followed by silence. Until the room exploded with inquiries, uncertainty, and whispers. It didn't matter, though, since Emma and I were still upright, together. 3 weeks had passed since the town hall meeting, and Willow Lake had changed. After days of circulating rumors, the dust finally started to settle. The following morning, Ethan had left town, leaving a trail of unpaid bills, betrayed confidence, and unresolved inquiries in his wake. With a plain for lease sign tacked to the window, his hardware store was closed. I stayed away from it. I didn't have to. I needed to concentrate on other things, like getting better. We spent more time together than we had in years, Emma and I. Without the burden of duty or shame, we were rediscovering what it meant to be sisters. We occasionally discussed what had transpired. Usually, we didn't. We were not required to. She relocated to a comfortable flat above a downtown bookshop, resumed painting. Her smile had grown, taking a deeper breath. And I finally saw the light in her coming back not because of a man, but because she had made the decision to be herself. My cafe, Willow Brews, was doing well. Something strange and beautiful happened when the town rallied in support of us after learning about our experiences. You were so brave, said women I hardly knew in whispers, and men bowed politely, awkwardly, but really. The company doubled. People respected the truth, not because they felt sorry for them. I was finishing up one day when a woman I had never seen before entered. She appeared to be in her 50s, graceful but worn out. She muttered, I just wanted to say thank you. For what purpose? I inquired, for expressing what I was never able to. With her coffee still unopened, she left a 20 on the counter. As the sun began to set and formed golden shadows on the walls, I remained there for a long time and came to a profound realization. We were more than merely survivors. We served as models. Months passed after a few weeks. I revamped the decor of my apartment. I adopted Juniper, a rescue dog who enjoyed belly rubs but detested vacuuming. I didn't check the locks 3 times during the night. And on a cool autumn morning, Emma and I sat on the cafe terrace while we drank coffee that seemed a bit sweeter than normal and watched the yellow leaves fall all around us. You ever think about what would have happened if we hadn't spoken up? Emma responded. I didn't think twice. Yeah, every day. And every day, I'm grateful we did. I put a straightforward statement for anyone in need on the bulletin board of my cafe that evening. You're not by yourself. You don't exaggerate. You're not having hallucinations. Furthermore, you owe no one your silence. Know this if you've ever been made to feel inferior, silenced, or undeserving. You have every right to regain control. You are quite entitled to leave, to keep your peace, and to start afresh. And you're not being selfish when you do it. You have strength. Please leave a comment if this tale struck a chord with you. Have you ever had to part ways with someone who should have been your defender? You're not by yourself. For more stirring tales of resiliency, honesty, and recovery, subscribe. Your narrative is important.